The vegetables mainly go to two different places. It all goes to people who have a hard time affording fresh vegetables. The main way is through the Rainier Valley Food Bank, which is just about a half mile from here. And then we also have what we call our work trade program. So if you have a hard time affording fresh vegetables and you come volunteer, you can take vegetables home with you. The Rainier Valley Food Bank comes every Tuesday. We do one big harvest for the food bank every week and some smaller harvests. But the big one for the food bank, this past week we harvested like 400 pounds of vegetables, which is a lot, you know, and some of that is things like lettuce, and that will last them about 2 hours. So that's the demand.
Hi, welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. I'm at the Seattle Community Farm with its coordinator, Scott Behmer. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us what this wonderful strip with veggies here and a children's garden there. Take us back to the beginning.
So this is our third growing season here. About 3 years ago, this was basically vacant land with cars parked on it, big empty lot, you know, some trash every now and then. And through a great partnership through my organization Solid Ground, as well as the City of Seattle and the Seattle Housing Authority, we managed to take this over and make what you see today, a beautiful garden.
That seems to have taken a fair amount of work or a lot of money or both or whatever, because what I see is, you know, rows of chard and beets and squash and beans and more beyond that.
Yep.
But including some sort of like terracing.
Yep.
What was that?
So the slide is sloped, and slopes aren't the greatest for growing on, so we created some terraces with we had some big heavy equipment come in with some funding through the City of Seattle, which was great, to do some terracing and some drainage work and big gravel pathway. And then me and the big volunteer numbers that we have here came and did the rest.
Did you have to amend the soil?
Yeah, we had to amend pretty heavily. So the soil here is pretty heavy clay soil, not the greatest farmland. Yeah.
I'll bet.
So we added a bunch of manure and compost, that kind of stuff, and in total about 200 cubic yards, which an average pickup truck holds about 1 cubic yard. So that gives you an idea of the scale, and that was all, you know, moved with wheelbarrows and shovels.
That's a lot of volunteers.
Yeah.
Tell me, who is this garden? I mean, who benefits from this garden? And give us a sense of your neighbors.
Yeah. So we have educational programs here, but the main thing we do is we grow a lot of veggies for folks who struggle to afford it. And there's a lot of those people in this neighborhood. The food bank here is one of the most busy in the city. And this neighborhood that we're in the broader Rainier Valley neighborhood in Seattle, but specifically in the Rainier Vista housing development, which is a mixed income subsidized housing development. So there are a lot of people living just right here that could use a little bit of a hand every now and then.
And so, come with me. I want to get a sense. This is these wonderful work tables that you guys have. Whoa! What happens on here on these nice stand-up tables? What do you?
Yeah, so we have a few different tables. This one is the main processing area. So as we're harvesting stuff from the farm to give to the food bank or our work trade program, it comes up here, gets washed in the sinks and laid out in big bins and all that.
Okay, yeah, I see sinks here.
Yep.
So you just bring your hose over and
fill up the sink.
Away you go.
And this is a drain board, drains
back. Which is really nice, concrete. I mean, I can't, works without maintaining it all the time.
Yeah. Although it was a lot of work initially. The rocks underneath here is about 40,000 pounds of rocks for all the tables.
Whoa.
The cement was about 10,000 pounds before he added water.
You must have had something bigger than wheelbarrows to do that with.
Mainly wheelbarrows. No. We did have a little gas-powered mixer, but it was kind of slow.
So who comes and volunteers with you? I love your wonderful door with all the gloves. So who works on it? You're not it.
No, I'm not it. I'm the only paid staff, but we have a lot of volunteers who come. We try to get folks from the neighborhood as much as possible. So there are a lot of people from the neighborhood that'll come. Some come once or twice and never come back. Some come 2 or 3 times a week every week, and everything in between. And then we also have sometimes larger groups like schools or businesses or churches or things that come and help us out.
So somebody comes, and you've got gloves for them. You've got tools. You've got
everything.
Everything, so they can just show up.
Yep. So you don't have to know anything about gardening. You don't have to have any tools. You basically show up, preferably with a water bottle. Maybe some sunscreen depending on the day, and I can do the rest.
And for some of the people, is it a work exchange kind of thing? They know they're going to get some produce in exchange for that work?
Yeah, so the vegetables mainly go to 2 different places. It all goes to people who have a hard time affording fresh vegetables. The main way is through the Rainier Valley Food Bank, which is just about a half mile from here. And then we also have what we call our work trade program. So if you have a hard time affording fresh vegetables and you come volunteer, you can take vegetables home with you.
Sounds like a great deal.
Yeah.
Sounds like a really great deal. Scott, you didn't do this all yourself. I mean, there's got to be an umbrella organization that makes this possible. Who's that?
There is. So the big organization that we're a part of is called Solid Ground, and it's a large nonprofit here in Seattle working to end poverty and its root causes in a whole bunch of different ways. So not only through a great community farm growing food for folks, but also through other food programs, through transportation programs, advocacy, legal stuff, housing, just a really wide array of things.
That's great. And I know that you partner with others as well. I mean, it seems to me that this is a team effort.
Yep. Lots of different community partners, initially partnering with the City of Seattle Department of Neighborhoods.
And who owns the land itself?
So this is through the Seattle Housing Authority, who owns the Rainier Vista development that we're in, owns the land, and they let us use it for free because we're adding benefit to their neighborhood.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it'd be cars and trash.
Yeah.
And who pays for water, say?
They're paying for water right now too, yeah.
Okay. Great, what a nice partnership.
Yeah.
I'd love to just take a little walk down and see the rest of the gardens here, so we're gonna head out.
Sounds good.
And see what you've got. Lots. So is this drip irrigation?
Yep, this is drip irrigation. The whole place is on a drip system. A lot less time hand watering for me.
Yes, yes. And you mentioned, do you choose what you grow based on the audience that you have?
Yeah, so we skew what we grow based on what people will eat. So my taste might not be the same taste as the person who's eating this food. The zip code that we're in, we're on the very northern border of what's actually the most diverse zip code in the whole U.S.
In terms of the demographics, the people.
Demographics, languages spoken, where people are from, all that kind of stuff. So we skew things based on, it still has to grow here, and preferably grow well here.
I noticed no bananas. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
But for instance, one thing I love is lemon cucumbers. I love them. And the first year I grew a row of lemon cucumbers along with our normal average green ones. But at the food bank, nobody wanted the lemon cucumbers, so we don't grow them anymore. We just grow all the green ones.
That people recognize as cucumbers and expect.
And that's what they want to eat. So.
And you also said that there's more collards here than say kale.
Yep.
Because some of the ethnic groups, well, certainly from the American South, that's a favorite.
Collards are a big popular one here. We're growing some fava beans this year. Yeah. All kinds of different stuff. So yeah, in my garden, I would probably grow twice as much kale as I would grow collard greens, but here it's reversed because that's about how much people like it here.
So you're tuning that based on the feedback you get from the food bank, based on what
the food
what
bank
goes,
and volunteers and people in the neighborhood, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Great. Let's take a look at some of the rest of the garden here. Looks like you're going to get green beans.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot
Boy,
already.
are they happy.
A few 100 pounds off of there so far.
So this is some of the concrete stuff. Hold on. I'll take a... That surely this
was heavy equipment.
I was going to say,
this was not
I couldn't do this with a wheelbarrow, no.
No.
But it's great to build the terracing so that you could use, use it all.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what I see here, actually, I'm just going to turn around and face this way. You've got new things probably planting or getting ready to be planted?
Yep, these are new things that are coming up for fall. These are, we got some spinach back there, some bok choy, some carrots in here for fall harvest.
And will you be putting in, or you've already put in things like broccoli or cauliflower?
Broccoli and cauliflower we actually don't grow. One thing that we skew towards what we grow is also what does well in a small space. So here, although for the city, we have a very big piece of land, but for a farm, it's still a very small farm.
How big, actually? I didn't know. How big is this parcel about?
If you include everything, it's about a half of an acre, but it's less than that that's actually in production.
Okay, okay.
So things like broccoli and cauliflower take up a lot of space for what you get out of them, which is why we don't grow them.
And is that true with things like lettuces? Do you do anything?
Oh yeah, lettuce is great. Lettuce actually grows a lot in a small space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tells you my ignorance. I haven't grown the lettuce. And squashes, which take over.
Yeah, we don't grow too much of those, but they're really fun, and they're actually a pretty good, yummy source of food too.
I want to head over here to oh, there's your lettuces up ahead of us. Tomatoes.
This is some lettuce here.
So do you find that you get enough volunteers to really keep up with things?
We
for
do.
yourself?
Yeah. You know, you can always use more, and we're always doing more outreach to get more volunteers because, you know, volunteers are coming and going.
Yeah, sure.
But overall, we have enough volunteers to get it done.
So that's heartening.
Yeah.
You know. And do you find that the food at the food bank goes?
It goes extraordinarily quickly. So the Rainier Valley Food Bank comes every Tuesday. We do one big harvest for the food bank every week and some smaller harvests. But the big one for the food bank, this past week we harvested like 400 pounds of vegetables, which is a lot, you know, and some of that is things like lettuce. And that will last them about 2 hours. So that's the demand, yeah.
That's what you want. You don't want this to get wasted.
No.
You want all the effort that you and your other volunteers put in and go to the food bank. You want that.
A lot of people don't understand that food banks actually really want fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that because it's like canned and packaged foods is what people tend to donate to a food
And that's
bank.
because that's what works well in a food drive situation where you have a bin at your work or your school or the grocery store for a week. They come pick it up.
Yeah.
Fresh vegetables don't do good in that situation, but that's one of the most in-demand items at food banks is fresh fruit and vegetables.
I would imagine that, although I don't see fruit here. Oh, wait a minute, there's a few wild blackberries.
Some raspberries along here.
So do you harvest those for the food bank also, or is that just for the volunteers?
Yeah, they don't make it past the volunteers.
I can
we
imagine
have some
that.
raspberries and some strawberries, but they never make it past the volunteers.
I can imagine you're on a hot day and you're out here working. It's like it's just the nicest treat you can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, let's take I want to walk down just so that folks can see the context a little bit of your neighborhood. Ooh, basil.
Yep.
I won't take it. I love basil. Has such a wonderful fragrance. So you've got the toilet for everybody to be able to use, and have a sense of the neighborhood. And you said these are recently redeveloped, subsidized housing?
Yeah, so the Rainier Vista neighborhood here is a very old subsidized housing neighborhood in Seattle, and it was getting too old, and so they demolished it all to build up new houses for everyone. And they're still doing it, in fact, but they're just about done. So, for instance, this house behind us wasn't here when we started. That's how recent it is.
Okay.
So they're still fixing them all up.
So let's wrap up our tour and go on up to the kids' garden. That something you have just for kids to work on?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Just for the kiddos.
Let's do that. So this wonderful space, it says this is a kids' garden. So tell me about, do you have programs for the kids?
We do. So we have a range of programs. Some we have just a one-time field trip. Like earlier this week, we had a bunch of preschool kids actually come out to the farm and have a field trip, and they were just here for a short while, but they got to see the garden and see what different plants look like, and they got to harvest a carrot for themselves and eat it.
Oh, goody.
Which is the first time most of them have done it.
Wow. Sure.
But then we also have more involved programs. Here in the kids' garden, we had a group of 7 and 8-year-olds come out once a week for the summer, learning about gardening and cooking and nutrition, kind of all aspects of it, from planting the seed to harvesting it and cooking a healthy snack.
All the way to cooking. I mean, that's going to, for many of them, it may have been their introduction to that.
Yeah, for many of them, yeah.
You know, I'm sure that eating greens may not be the most common thing for many kids.
Yeah, and we
in
managed
this.
to make it fun and exciting.
So that is thrilling. Yeah, I love your little sign, see, taste, touch, mint, mint.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
There's 5 different kinds of mint.
And did you have the kids smelling the mint?
Yeah.
And rubbing
Taste
their
each
hands
one
with it?
and
Sure.
smell it. And yeah, we have a kids garden coordinator who has helped out with this, and at our other farm, we have a kids garden. The themed beds was one of her things, so you can use all your different senses, you know.
Oh, I see.
So down there, there's flowers that you can look at, see all the different kinds of flowers.
I see.
Another bed with things that smell really strong. Another bed,
Okay.
you know, it has sorrel in it, which tastes really strong, or mint that smells really strong.
Yeah, that's a nice way to get kids use all of the senses
Yeah.
rather than just a faceless group of plants.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go beside the strawberries just in case there might be one, because there's a fun-looking bin down here that I bet the kids have a blast, or maybe we'll see. I noticed this bin that says Verma Composting.
Yep.
Worms eat our garbage, with some wonderful fun pictures in here. So what do they get to learn about?
So they
The
get to learn
worm
about
bin.
lots of bugs and worms, and so when we're doing our cooking and nutrition programming, we have food scraps, and so we have this worm bin. It's gotten a lot of food scraps lately,
Sure
so
has, yeah.
there's a
Looks-
lot
they're
going
breaking
on
down
in there.
here.
But they get to learn about worms and the soil and all that kind of stuff, and all the different bugs that are in the soil.
Which means making friends sort of with them, not being so ooey about them. 'Cause,
Exactly.
Like, look at all these potato bugs or sow bugs or whatever. No, those are sow bugs, little guys. I mean, they're just helping to break it down.
Exactly.
So they know them as friends. The kids learn that
Yep.
they're good guys.
That's one of the first things we go over in the garden, is that bugs are usually good.
And do they get to, I mean, I imagine the worms are, way
Yeah.
down there. So the kids, does somebody
They
reach
get
a
to dig
handful and they
around
get
and,
to
yeah.
see little wiggly worms? And what kind of response do you get?
A little bit of everything. Some screaming and running away, some screaming with delight. Usually it involves screaming, though, in one way or the other. A lot of them really, really like the worms.
Do the kids, besides visiting, do you ever have any of the kids work on the gardens too?
Oh yeah, just earlier today actually we had a couple kids who live just across the street here, 4 of them who came out and helped for the day. We got to do a little bit of weeding and planting and watering, and yeah.
You must feel really satisfied. You've been with it since the beginning. Are
Yeah.
you proud of what it's becoming?
Yeah, very proud.
So if you were advising another community who had a little plot of land to do something with, any tips you'd give them?
It's a lot of hard work. And when you're trying to involve the community, just being as active and open and flexible as possible. You know, a lot of things that might seem really simple, like, okay, well, if your work parties are always on Saturdays and someone works on weekends, they're never going to come to your work parties and never going to be involved. So just being flexible with different people's schedules and what they want out of the garden.
I mean, it sounds to me like you've adapted that garden to who your people, your eaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the hands that'll come work with it, all those wonderful blue gloves.
Yeah.
So, thank you for
You're
this
welcome.
lovely tour, and I hope that, that as the years develop, obviously it will mature, and you'll learn even more. I'm so glad that City of Seattle, folks like you, are involving the neighbors that aren't getting good produce otherwise.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
You're watching Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. I'm with Scott Behmer at the Seattle Community Farm. Wouldn't you like a farm like this in your neighborhood? Join us next time.